Hello and welcome back to the Priestess Life series and what it means to be a priestess in modern day times. My name is marionbrigantia and I am a priestess here in Avalon. I'm a priestess of Avalon, I'm a priestess of Bridget, and I share with you what it means to be and the implications of being a priestess in modern day times. So I started this series to talk about myself and to introduce myself. And in the second episode, I talked about how to become a priestess, what the opportunities are here in Avalon especially, but you can do any priestess trainings all over the world, and it's growing. It's really great. So this time I'm giving more attention to a question that came up a lot after the first episode, and the question was, how do I tell my family? How do I interact with friends? How am I a priestess while I'm working? So how really to interact with the normal life that you have next to your spiritual life. I think this is not a new thing. I think this is has been a thing for many years, really, because things have changed in past times. It was very normal that your spiritual life was part of your normal life, and this has definitely changed in the last decades. So spiritual life is something that you do really. It's not really so much normal life for a lot of people, and especially with spirituality. Maybe with religion it's still much more a part of your life, and sometimes even has to be part of your life. So what we're talking about is really that you have a spiritual path that a lot of people around you, your colleagues, your siblings, your children, your partner, really don't understand, or it's new for them. So how to react to that, how to interact with that. So one of the things that I find, especially when I'm teaching, and this is something that when I'm teaching a lot of people come across when they start to walk this path, is that people, are afraid. They are afraid. A lot of people who do this kind of spirituality have always felt different. A friend of mine, Katinka, she talks about the purple zebras, and I like that idea, that you are like in a group of normal stripy zebras. You are the purple zebra, and you are ousted. So in nature, the weakest in the group, I'm not saying that spirituality is weakness at all, but the weakest in the group would be in the center, would be protected. What we do in as humans, it's often that if somebody is different, is other, we actually oust them. And I think a lot of people who walk this path have experienced it. I have experienced this myself. And it's really about finding your tribe. And then you find the thing that you really were looking for, which is a certain spiritual path. And this in my case, was my priestess self. And then people around you are like, oh, you're different, you're strange, I don't know how to interact with you. And this is something that people are afraid of. People have been bullied when they were small, when they were at school, because they were different, because they were other. And now they are other again, although they are other in their joy and they really love what they're doing. They're still feeling other. So a lot of people are afraid to come out as a priestess. And then there's the history as well, because priestess is not so far from witch. A lot of people, in my family, I had to really say, no, I'm not a witch. Witches are in spiritual sense, are my cousins, but I'm a priestess. It's a different thing. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with witches either. So it's a thing. It's a fear that has come from history. That women who were wise women, who were witched women, wise women. So they were, well, we know what they were. They were burned, they were drowned, they were hanged. So that it's not a fear that is, although now in these times it's not so, especially in Northern Europe, it's not up anymore. There is still that fear that is in the people who are walking this path. So these two things are definitely the things to start with. So the fear that is in yourself. So why are you afraid to show yourself as a priestess? So to look at that is the first thing I would say to work with. And this is one of the things that's definitely I work with, and I know other teachers are working with as well in the trainings. So that is the part from you, and then there is the part from the people around you. So they come across something that is new, and they come across something that has changed you maybe, because this is a very transformative path, and so you are changing, you know, not maybe in huge ways, not just maybe little things. You become more aware. You work through your wounding, you start using different words, maybe you start dressing differently, all these things. Suddenly you retreat into your room and you do a ritual, and it's all quite, it can be quite challenging for the people you live with, like, well, if you live at home with your parents, your siblings, or when you live on your own with maybe your partner or your children. So I think the first thing in this is to communicate, and the path of Goddess is a very inclusive path. It's not about just priestesses, as I said in the last video. It's about everybody who is Goddess curious and who wants to know more. So you can really bring that out, not in a way to convince other people, but just to say, well, this is what I'm doing, and this is my passion, and this is now my joy, and I like to do this, and look at this, and I see how fun this is. So to include people, and even if they're a bit like, I remember I took my parents to the Goddess Temple in the Netherlands when I was teaching there, and it was very interesting because they were interested, and they were a bit like, what's happening here? This is not what I know. But in the end, it's really good because then we can talk about something. So to include people is, I think, a very good way forward, and to inform them. If they like to read books, there's so many books about Goddess and about priestessing that you can share with them. If you do rituals, especially if you have younger children, just if it's like, there's a fire ritual you do in your garden, make it fun, make it open, it's not all hidden and mysterious. There are ceremonies that you, like for your homework, you have to do that are like really personal and you don't want anybody there, but there are also lots of other things that are really fun and can be inclusive of other people. So it's really to understand that for them there's a big change. Yes, you are going through this whole change, and you have gone through this whole change, and you are excited and everything is new. But for them there is as much change as for you. And a lot of people don't see that because they're in their own process. I understand that, but it's also important to have the other people come into that process in a way, if they want to, because some people don't want to. And I think that's also a thing. Sometimes you just can agree to disagree. You don't have to convince anybody, and you can say, this is my path, I love this. But if this is not your path, let's talk about what your path is and what you are doing. And so to really to accept that not everybody likes the same things, and for not everybody is the same path. And also I think this is also, especially when you're with a partner, to have compassion for the other person, to understand, to not judge if they can't follow you, or I think it's very good to have clear boundaries. So if this is your path, of course you can do this, and they shouldn't stop you either, but it's not for you to say, oh, you have to be okay with this. So I think it's to feel the compassion. Yeah, I think in my own life I've been very, very lucky, because the people around me have always been very understanding and actually quite curious about it. But sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's really to respect that some people won't accept it, and but it doesn't mean that they don't accept you. And I think that is also something to point out, that like, okay, this is something, you know, that is important to me, but if you really don't want to be part of that, please let me do it. You know, I'm not even ask it, but say, you know, this is what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people will just accept that, and I hope. So yeah, so this is a little bit how I would approach it. And I think the thing also is to make it very normal, because actually it is very normal. And in my life, in my priestess life, this is the norm. And I know I'm lucky to live here in Glastonbury, that this is actually quite normal. But if you make it normal, it's easier for other people to see that it's not scary, it's not so mysterious, it's just a way of experiencing life. So I hope that I have answered this question a little bit, and I ask you to send more questions, because it's very good to know what you want to learn and want to know about modern day priestessing. But for now, I bid you farewell, and I hope to see you next week. Blessed be.